What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel, or this is the first video that you're seeing, and welcome to my channel. As you can tell from the title of this video, some of you are probably a little bit confused. So I have Asperger's syndrome, and I first talked about that in the second video that I ever posted on this channel, which was almost 2 years ago now. And originally, that was what this channel was supposed to be about. I was going to show you guys what it's like for me to live my life as a person who suffers from social anxiety, difficulty talking to people, all the stuff that comes with Asperger's syndrome. I was going to make this channel about kind of, what it's like to live my life around that and how I come through that and stuff. And somehow I ended up not doing that, really, which wasn't really my intention. I didn't do that on purpose, I guess, but I do have Asperger's syndrome. And if you haven't been watching my channel for the past 2 years, you probably don't know that, because I don't talk about it anywhere other than my YouTube channel. I don't talk to people in my life about it. I barely talk to my parents about it. But it is there, and it is real, and it's not something that I'm ashamed of anymore. I did used to be ashamed of it, and I'll talk about that in, a future video and everything. But I figured it was time to get back to the point of what this channel was supposed to be about in the first place. So today I'm going to be telling you guys specifically how I found out I have Asperger's syndrome. Or at least I'm going to try to, because the memory is still a little bit foggy. And it wasn't really like a huge thing. It was kind of just like a random moment where it kind of happened. But when I did find out, it actually made a bit of sense, because like for me growing up, I've always been different. I've always been the awkward kid in the corner at school. I've never really talked to people. It's something that I've always struggled with. And so for me, the day that I finally figured out that there was a reason behind that, it made things more difficult, but at the same time, it made it a lot more easy, because now I knew why I was having problems, and I now could move forward and move towards fixing those problems. So I don't know the exact age that I found out about it. I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old, is what my mom tells me. I'm pretty sure when I found out about it, I was probably maybe 4th or 5th grade, so like 10 years old. My memory is kind of foggy, so I'm not exactly sure how much of all of this is like accurate. But from my memory, like we were just watching a movie, and I wasn't really paying attention to the movie. I was kind of drifting in and out, because I was really into like reading and stuff, and like just like hanging out, and it was kind of difficult for me to focus on stuff. I also have ADHD, but that's not what this video is about. But it was really difficult for me to focus on stuff. So while we were watching the movie, I was kind of like going in and out of it, not really paying attention. And eventually I caught on to the fact that this movie was about a woman specifically that had Asperger's syndrome. I don't know if it was Asperger's syndrome or autism specifically, and I cannot remember. I know the name of the movie, but I don't really know how to pronounce it correctly, so I'm going to leave it right here. So this is the title of the movie we're watching. It's a very popular movie, obviously. It was in its time, and it still was. It still is to this day, but I couldn't really tell you that much about it. But it was this movie about this woman who had Asperger's syndrome. And I wasn't really watching the movie, like I said, but the parts that I did pay attention to, it was usually moments where I would notice that this woman, she was doing these strange things, like things that normal people don't do. And I remember, I think there's a few times where I was like, well, I didn't say it out loud, but I was just like, well, I do that too, I do stuff like that too. And so that was when I kind of really did get into the movie. But eventually I walked out of the room, because for me it was really, I don't know, it felt weird for me seeing a movie like that. Like, I don't watch movies about people with cancer. I don't watch movies where I know someone's going to die or stuff. I don't like to watch movies where I know something bad is going to happen. That's just never been something that I've enjoyed watching. So for me, seeing this woman struggle to do everyday tasks and seeing the way people treated her differently, that to me, like, I didn't want to watch that. And at the time, I didn't know that it was something that could be very beneficial for me to watch. So I wasn't really paying attention to it. And I remember after the movie finally went off, I went into the kitchen where my mom was. She was washing dishes. And I was like, that movie was kind of weird. It was kind of crazy to watch. And she didn't really say anything. She was kind of just like looking down at the dishes, which I thought was weird at the time, that she wasn't really looking at me. But I was pretty much just like, do you know anyone specifically who struggles with Asperger's syndrome? Because I was genuinely curious, because like I didn't know if this was like a real condition at the time. I didn't know anything about it. I was in elementary school. I was just a regular kid at this time. I didn't know that this was an actual thing. I didn't know that this movie was based on a true story. But so I was just like, do you know anyone who has Asperger's syndrome? And she was like, you have Asperger's syndrome. I don't think it was, she told me that I have autism. So like there's a spectrum. I'm on the higher end of the spectrum in the sense that it doesn't affect me as badly as some people. Asperger's syndrome is basically a mild form of autism. So when I say I have Asperger's syndrome, I'm autistic. So she told me, oh, you have autism. And I just remember standing there, I was like, no, I don't. Like, I thought she was joking at the time. I seriously thought she was joking, because I just thought, like, even as a very young child at the time, I was just thinking about it from a logical perspective. I was like, well, this, like, but because from watching the movie, it seemed like it was a really serious condition. And I just figured there's no way she's telling me that I have this serious condition in this random moment of her washing dishes after we watched the movie about it. So I thought she was joking, and she told me that she wasn't joking. And that's kind of the whole story from what I remember about how I found out that I have Asperger's syndrome. So I don't really know, like, I don't really remember what happened after that. Like I said, I was so young. This was literally 13 years ago. But what I do remember is how it affected me in the later years of my childhood, like becoming a young woman, going through puberty and all that. Like, for me, finding out the key to why I was so different and why I was acting different than other children, that, to me, it made things a bit difficult for me. I didn't really want to tell anyone that I have Asperger's syndrome, like anyone that I went to school with, because I was already the weird kid. Like, I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't really talk to people. I was very, like, kept to myself. I sat by myself at lunch. I didn't talk to kids in class. Like, before the class starts, everyone's just standing around talking to each other and friends, or like talking about what they did over the weekend or what they did the previous night. Everyone has friends to hang out with. I would literally just be sitting on my desk waiting for class to start. I didn't have a lot of friends. I didn't talk to anyone really. I didn't really want to talk to anyone. That's something that I had been going through for years, not talking to other children at school. So now the only difference was I finally knew why. And so that definitely made school a lot more difficult, because I kind of thought at the time, before I found out, when I thought of disabilities and like mental illnesses, I didn't really think of people, though I didn't think of people with mental illnesses as being the people who are capable of like functioning in everyday life. I thought, they can never be independent, they can never live on their own, they can never work and stuff like that. And that was my opinion on that for like years to come. I don't think it was until like 8th grade or maybe like the beginning of high school that I finally it never completely went away, because it never will go away. Like, to this day, I constantly struggle with communicating with people. But I definitely think it started getting better in high school. I don't know why. For me, I find that when I spend so much time around certain people, it usually gets easier and easier for me to talk to them. Like, for me, I have a job, so when I go to work, I feel like when I first started working there, I was kind of quiet, didn't really talk to anyone. But most of the people like 60% of the people that work there have been working there since I started working there. So the people that I've known the entire time that I've worked there, it is easier for me to talk to them now than it was when I first started. So this has been the case since like high school. So like the people that I had known since elementary school and I was now going to high school with them, I was totally able to talk to them. Like, we hung out in class and stuff. I never hung out with anyone out of class because I just didn't. I think for me it helped. So talking to people at school was a lot easier than talking to people outside of school, because when you're in a foreign place, it's sort of difficult to like navigate that environment on its own. So talking to people at school and now at work is a lot easier for me than talking to them outside of that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Okay. But yeah, it's something that I've definitely struggled with for the longest time. And actually, everyone knows I've been going to therapy for a while now. That's the number one reason why I'm in therapy. It's to help me with my social skills, because I'm at the point in my life where I do want to be an independent person. And at the end of the day, part of having that independence is being able to socialize with people. So that's the number one reason why I'm going to therapy. It's not saying that my anxiety issues aren't real or aren't there, but it's mostly to help me with my autism issue. So that's pretty much the story of how this entire experience was for me. And like I said, I don't really have a lot of memories of like exactly around the time that I found out. Like, I just can't recall pretty much anything from 5th grade. But like I said, it was a difficult time for me then, and it's gotten easier as I get older. But it is something that I still struggle with sometimes, and that was the reason why I wanted to make videos, because I wanted to show people how far I've come and how far I still have to go. But at the same time, I'm not ashamed of anything. That's part of what makes me who I am. I'm an amazing person. I'm an amazing woman. And this is just something that comes along with that. And I'm not ashamed of it. I'm not ashamed to talk about it. I don't really like talking about it. I have not told anyone, just like publicly to their face. I've told very few people that I actually have Asperger's syndrome. So there's people that I work with that are probably going to watch this video and be completely shocked because they had no idea. Because it's just something that I don't talk about, because I don't want people to know this and think less of me, or think that I'm not as capable of as I used to be. For me, I know damn well I can do anything that anyone else can do. And I refuse to give anyone any sort of information that allows them to think otherwise. So I don't tell people that I have Asperger's syndrome until I really get to know them, because I feel like when I really get to know you and then you find out, you're like, oh, so she has this thing about her, but she's still just like me. She can still do all the things that I can do, and this isn't something that makes her any different at all. So that's the kind of stance that I've been taking with it, but it is what it is. And I want to start making more videos about this. I didn't stop making videos about this because I was like ashamed or I regretted talking about it or anything. I just genuinely forgot. Like, I totally forgot about the whole Asperger's syndrome, because I've gotten to a place in my life where it is a huge part of my life, but it's not everything. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm still 23 years old. I'm still trying to figure out life. I'm still trying to navigate life as a person in her early 20s. I'm still trying to figure out how to be independent. I'm working, you know, I was in school when I started this YouTube channel. Like, the Asperger's syndrome, to me, there is that, but I also have a ton of other shit going on in my life. And so, it just hasn't been the number one thing to focus on right now, because I just kind of feel like it's something that is going to be a part of my life for the rest of my life. And so sometimes I just have to navigate around that. I can't spend all day, every day thinking about how I have Asperger's syndrome, or what that means for me, or what that means for my future. Because if I did that, I would literally never do anything, because this isn't something that's going to cure itself. This isn't something that's going to go away. I'm just going to have to learn how to live with it. And I have, and I still am. And now I want to show you guys how I do all of that. So there's going to be a lot more personal videos coming to this channel about Asperger's syndrome and about a ton of other stuff, because I'm just at the point where I want to share my opinion on certain stuff, and I'm not ashamed to do that anymore. So stay tuned, because that's where we're headed. But yeah, other than that, thanks for watching the video, because it was honestly a really difficult video for me to make. I'm kind of surprised I didn't cry. I'll probably cry at some point today, but Anyway, like I said, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you push the notification bell, you'll be notified every time I post a video. Thank you so much for all your love and support. It means the world to me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.